What are the best cruises to do month by month across the year? I'm Gary Bembridge. This is another of my cruising tips for travelers. I want to share with you my recommendations, my tips on what cruise I really think you should do month by month based on the best time to visit a destination. So let's first of all acknowledge that there are two fundamental cruises that you can do, largely speaking, all year round. So that's the Caribbean and the Mediterranean, the two biggest cruising destinations in the world. The Caribbean season, it really sort of runs from around about October time through to about March, April time. That's the real peak of the season. Then the Mediterranean season kicks in from about April time and runs through to about September, October time. A lot of the cruise lines will shift their ships between those two regions. So those are the times of the year when you can pretty much go to the two biggest and most popular cruising destinations. But what should you really be doing month by month? So let's start with January. In January, it's a great time to head to the Southern Hemisphere because that's the summer season. The thing that I like to do in January is really focus on South America and Panama, because although it is quite hot and quite sticky at that time of the year, it's great weather. There's lots of options, so you get lots of choices, and it's a brilliant time of the year to see South America, the great parts of South America. You can head right down to the lower parts of South America, and certainly you can do the whole area of Central America, and particularly you can transit, or you'll find many cruises that go part of the way through the Panama Canal. So really focus on cruises in the Southern Hemisphere. February is actually my favorite time of the year to go to the Caribbean for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's still great weather, you're going to have really nice weather, it's not too crazy hot. But really importantly, it's past the busy, hectic period. So there's quite a lot of capacity still in the Caribbean. You'll get great deals, there's lots of choice, but it's not manically busy. So you'll find the ports are not busy, the destinations, the beaches aren't crazy busy, and it's lots of choice, really great prices. So February is a great time to head to the Caribbean, particularly if you're not restricted because of kids and holidays. Pretty much all the schools, all those kind of things are not out, and so you also have quite a great adult cruising period. So February is a great time to go to the Caribbean. March is a fantastic time if you want to go much further afield and head down to Australia and New Zealand. It's the end really of the peak Australian period, so you'll find, particularly as I mentioned earlier, because it's the Southern Hemisphere, so January, February time is really busy. Lots of Australians go cruising at that time. It's great weather, but in March the weather's still great. There's still a lot of choices. You can do a lot of cruises around Australia, parts of Australia, the circumnavigations of Australia. Cruises include New Zealand and Australia. It's a great time to go. There's still quite a lot of choice. Prices aren't completely crazy, and you get to see beautiful sights without the big, busy peak summer time in Australia and New Zealand. So if you want to travel further afield, it's a great time to go. And also increasingly you're finding more and more cruise lines are moving ships to Australia to cover this time of the year, the whole peak period. And so you're going to find lots and lots of different brands and lots of choice. You'll often find around about this time, you're just going to catch parts often of cruise lines passing through Australia on their extended voyages and their world voyages. You will need to go much earlier though in the March period to really catch those, but lots and lots of choice. April is another great time to go somewhere exotic, and one of the fastest growing areas is Japan, and I've cruised to Japan at this time of the year. The reason for April, it's when the cherry blossoms and all the blossoms come out, and it is a very beautiful time of the year to go and see Japan. It's getting a little bit warmer because of course it's heading into springtime. It's still not massively warm, but it's absolutely beautiful, and you're going to find lots and lots of festivals around the blossom time. Again, increasingly more and more choice because it is a really popular time. The downside is it will be relatively expensive because loads of people want to cruise Japan at this time of the year, and there's lots of people also on land-based vacations, so places are really busy. If you are thinking of going to Japan, one key watch out is you have Golden Week, which is normally around April 29th to May the 5th. This is a time when there's lots of holidays, lots of travel, so you want to avoid that time period because it is a little bit crazy. But certainly Japan, it's a magnificent place to go. Cruising in Japan is a great way to go to Japan for the first time, because although actually once you're there, you'll find getting around, even though you don't speak the language, the Japanese people are very welcoming, they're very calm, they're very kind, and you'll find in all the key places you want to go to that they do cater for tourists. But it's a great way of going to Japan for the first time. And if you're going to go in April when you get all the blossom. It is absolutely beautiful in Japan at this time of the year. What is my tip for May? Well, May for me is Alaska month. It's really the beginning of the season. The season in Alaska really runs from about May to October. May is normally when you get the least amount of rain. I really like going in May for a couple of reasons. It's the beginning of the season, so places aren't still crazy busy. In Alaska, it's really, really busy. Prices tend to be a little bit better, and as I mentioned, you have a great chance of having good weather. Now, some people don't like to go in May because you don't get as much wildlife. The wildlife really tends to come out, particularly the bears, etc., once the whole salmon season starts. So you're probably going to see less wildlife, but you are going to still see the great sights, and it is less busy. It's the beginning of the season. Everyone's invigorated and enthusiastic in the towns. They're not sort of worn down by all the hordes. Of course, in May in Alaska, it's not going to be as warm as it is later, but if you're going to Alaska, you're not really going for the warmth, you're going for the beautiful scenery. What about June? Now in June, if you want to be really exotic and go somewhere a little bit on the pricey side, but absolutely magnificent, June is the month to go to Tahiti and the French Polynesian Islands. It is beautiful at this time of the year. You're heading into the drier time of the year, so you're less likely to have rain. We went in June. Friends of ours had gone in May. All their pictures are pretty grey. We went in June and we had beautiful, beautiful weather. Once you head into July and August time, the Tahiti and the French Polynesian Island gets really busy because it's school holiday time. So lots of French people particularly like to go. A lot of people from the west coast of the US like to go. You'll find lots of weddings take place. So it is much busier. So June is a great time to go. Less rain, beautiful scenery, and less busy. Really, really great. If you don't want to go somewhere quite as exotic as Tahiti, you want to go somewhere that's perhaps a little bit more affordable, look at the Mediterranean, because June is a great time to go to the Mediterranean. It's getting warm and it's before the manic holiday period. Do not go to the Mediterranean in July and August. It's crazy, crazy busy. So June is a good time, although I actually have coming up an even better month to go. But certainly June is a good month to go to the Mediterranean, particularly if you want a more adult-focused cruise, because it's not holiday time for all the schools and universities and colleges. What about July? Now, July is the time, in my view, to go to the Norwegian fjords. The season for the fjords is pretty similar to the Alaska season. It runs really from around about April, May time until sort of September, October time. Now, you can also go to Norway in winter if you want to go for the snow and snow-related activities, dog sleighing, reindeer sleighing, ice hotels, and you want to head right up much further and perhaps get a chance of seeing the northern lights in the Arctic Circle. But if you want to go for just the scenery, the beauty of it, July is a great time to go. The temperatures are much warmer and the scenery is beautiful. Also, you get the very long days, so as you cruise through the fjords right into the night, you have beautiful scenery around you and long, long days. It is a busy time of the year because it's holiday time, but on a cruise, of course, the magic of seeing the fjords is actually cruising through the fjords, so you do avoid a lot of the crowds. The crowds will come much more when you're in the cities and towns and you head out on your excursions. But definitely July is a fantastic time to go to really see the beauty of the Norwegian fjords. And Norwegian fjords is a bit like Alaska. It's one of those cruises that you must do at some point in your life. What about August? Now, August is peak holiday time, so you're probably going to want to avoid the really busy places. However, there is one place, it will be busy, but it is absolutely magical. And again, it's one of those places you probably want to have on your list of things to do. Iceland. I've been on 2 cruises now to Iceland, both of those in August. And the weather is a little bit unpredictable. One time I went, it was pretty sunny, not massively warm, but pretty sunny. The other time it was more overcast and cold, but it's the best time of the year to go. Again, you have longer days. It is very busy, but you do get to see the magnificence of Iceland. Iceland is a really strange, unusual place from a landscape, scenery, story point of view. You see incredible things with geysers, phenomenal waterfalls, and it's a beautiful time of the year to go. It really is at its most beautiful in August. So avoid the craziness of the Mediterranean, avoid the craziness perhaps even of the Caribbean, although you're heading into hurricane season, but it's still a really busy time, and consider cruising to Iceland. If that doesn't appeal to you, of course, if you decide it's school holidays and you really want to go somewhere warm and hot, of course, the Mediterranean is a great place to go at this time of the year, but it is going to be more expensive and really, really busy. So if you want to go somewhere exotic, Iceland is the one to consider. Now in September, there are probably 2 key recommendations for September. The big one is Canada and New England. This is becoming more and more popular, and you're heading into autumn time, and a lot of people like to head to Canada and New England on these kind of cruises at this time of year because it's when you start to get the beautiful foliage So it is a little bit more chilly, but you do get to tour some of the big cities, whether it's Ottawa or Montreal, places like that, when it's not as hot and sticky as it is in the summer. So you get to see those when it's less busy, but you do get to see the beautiful, beautiful scenery. And certainly that's one of the cruises that really sticks in my mind as a very beautiful place to go. The downside of going to Canada, New England in September, it does tend to be a little bit more expensive than going in October, but October is really the end of the season and September is really when it's still, I think, a good balance of not too cold, beautiful scenery, but it is going to cost you slightly more than if you wait a little bit later in the season. October for me is the absolute best time to go to the Mediterranean, particularly on the cruises that go between Venice and Athens. The temperatures are going to be early 20 degrees Celsius. It's normally very sunny, but the places are not crazy busy. It's kind of post the season, but everything's still open, everything's still vibey, things are still going, and you can still, find you can go to the beach or swim if that's the kind of thing you want to do. But it's a really great time to go. It's just before the ships sort of head away mostly to the Caribbean, and I've had fantastic times in the Mediterranean in October because good weather and not crazy busy, not crazy expensive. Tours aren't really crazy. The places you go to visit aren't crazy busy. And really, I strongly recommend if you don't have kids, you don't have to worry about school holidays. October's a great time to go. There's still a lot of choice because very few of the cruise lines will have moved their ships out of the Mediterranean. So there's lots of choice. Prices tend to be pretty good. But think a lot about that Venice to Athens leg. It really is quite magnificent at this time of year. I've done it a couple of times and really can recommend it very, very strongly. November is another great month to go to the Caribbean. After February, November is my other key time that I would look at going to the Caribbean for very similar reasons to the February. However, if you really want to do something really exotic, very special, a once in a lifetime, Antarctica in November is a fantastic time to go. It's the beginning of the season. It really starts up towards the end of October, beginning of November. It's at its most pristine, so a lot of the places you call will have had almost nobody calling on them, right through the whole winter period. There's going to be lots of ice around, and it really is quite magnificent. The weather's a little bit more unpredictable than a little bit late in the season. The peak is really December time. December is a very, very expensive time to go to Antarctica. November, at the start of the season, it's a great time to go. It's also when a lot of the wildlife are starting to have their chicks. So if you go on one of those longer tours, which include things like the Falklands, the South Shetland Islands, you're going to see lots of very young chicks, etc. It's not the best time for whale watching. That tends to be a little bit late in the season, more sort of January, February time, but it is a magnificent time. It's where you're going to see the Antarctica at its most pristine. Of course, as I mentioned, if you don't want to go to the whole extravagance of Antarctica, because you're probably going to go there maybe once in your life, the Caribbean at this time of year is a really great option if you want to go somewhere a little bit more affordable and, of course, warm. So what about December? Well, one of the most fantastic things to do in December is embrace the whole festive season and go on a river cruise. Take advantage of the fact that most river cruise lines in Europe are now doing river cruises focused on the Christmas markets. These are really fun cruises. They do some from 5 days up to 7 days. It's cold, of course, it's chilly, but it's a magnificent time of the year. The fantastic and famous Christmas markets. Definitely, I would say, river cruising in December. It's cold, it's chilly, but it's really a way of getting into the whole festive period and festive time. But of course, if you don't want to do the whole Christmas market cold thing, two things to take a look at. If you're based in Europe, take a look at some of the Christmas cruises or winter cruises which go down to the Canary Islands. A lot of them sailing out of the UK or parts of Europe. It's not going to be massively warm in the Canary Islands, but you might get temperatures in the day between sort of 18 degrees Celsius up to the early 20 degrees Celsius. And of course, if you are more US based, you might want to look at the Caribbean. It is going to be an expensive time. It is going to be a busy time, but it's absolutely the most beautiful time weather-wise to head off to the Caribbean. Those are my tips across the year for what I think are the absolute best cruises to do. Of course, a cruise at any time of the year is a great thing to do. Hopefully you found those tips helpful. Remember, I have loads more of cruising tips and advice. So why don't you watch another one of those videos right now.